Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer Qi from Beijing, and today my topic will be bilingual stuttering. It is a very new subject in the field of speech-language pathology, and I will begin with the introduction of stuttering. So this is my content. It's divided into stuttering, brain structures, and executive forces. The first one is, what is stuttering? So stuttering is a speech disorder where the flow of speech is disrupted. Actually, there are three types of stuttering. The first one is repetition, the second one is blocks, and third one is prolongations. So, here are examples of the three kinds of stuttering. And a person who stutters is unable to produce sound without blocks or silent pauses, and it prevails in every region of the world. So stuttering diffluences vary in quality. Common diffluences tend to be repeated movements, fixed postures, or superfluous behaviors. And each of these three categories is composed of subgroup of stutters and disfluencies. So repeated movements include syllable repetition, incomplete syllable repetition, and multi-syllable repetition. The last one is known as it's be like I know a lot of information, that kind of thing. So the etiology of stutter is yet unknown, but previous study have found that different gene arrangement and brain dysfunction between people who stutter and people who with no stutter. The second one is bilingual stutter, and this is a focus of my research paper. I focus on bilingual stutters. So what is bilingual? Bilingualism is the use of more than one natural language whose speaker outnumber monolingual speakers. That's people who speak only his or her mother language in the world population. Language learning is a cognitive process where the second language is processed either simultaneously with their first language or developed after being taught through translating. In simultaneous bilingualism, people develop two languages at a young age due to their bilingual growing environment and are proficient in the two languages without learning through translation later on. So in sequential acquisition, that is another type of bilingualism, the phase of the second language acquisition among children vary greatly, which is more complex and lengthy process, although there is no indication that non-language delayed children end up less proficient than simultaneous bilinguals, as long as they receive adequate input in both languages. So this is bilingual concept, and yeah, you can definite are you a simultaneous bilingual or sequential bilingual if you can speak two languages? This is a difference. And next one is language acquisition. It's divided into three categories. In language acquisition, infants start to produce their first words like mama and papa around 1 year old, depending on their parents' eagerness to input sounds or sign language to their children. And children typically start stuttering at the age between 2 and 4 when they first start to put together words to create longer sentences instead of simply producing a few syllables or phonemes. It is important to seek help for stuttering as early as possible because some children don't stutter till later in their childhood, and behaviors of stuttering also include nonverbal body gestures, including blinking their eyes, tensing their face, or clenching their fist, which are ways infants do to avoid or overcome their language defluency they detected previously. So around 5 years old, some children stop stuttering while some experience lifelong stuttering. And I think it is quite interesting, but the etiology and the reason behind this is still unclear. And the second one is the brain structures of stutterers. An interesting part in our brain is the Broca's area. The Broca's area is in the prefrontal cortex with the vernix area in the left temporal lobe. There are two main functional cortical areas responsible for language production and comprehension, respectively. The Broca's area is a precursor to semantics. If damaged, people can produce integrated sentences but can't understand hearing inputs. And there is a very important neural loop called the cortical basal ganglia thalamocortical loop. It is lengthy, and it is one of the fundamental networks in the brain. It reveals the understanding of cognition, sensory motor behavior, and the natural history of many neurological and neuropsychiatric disorders. Motor associative and limbic channels are contained in this network too. The lack of typical development of cortical basal ganglia thalamocortical loop reflects the anatomical basis of a normal inhibitory control network between Broca's area in the individuals from families of inherited stuttering. This is the first evidence of a neurophenotype with an autosomal dominant stuttering and a family inherited with stuttering. So that is really interesting. And the second one is called the gray and white matter. Everyone has this in your brain. The central nervous system is made up of gray matter and white matter. However, gray matter plays the most significant part in allowing humans to function normally daily, and gray matter makes up the outermost layer of the brain. The white matter and the gray matter are similar as they are both essential sections of both the brain as well as the spinal cord. The gray matter gets its gray tone from a high concentration of neural cell bodies. Various anatomical changes in brain structure associated with bilingualism have also been observed, and overall, gray matter changes are typically found in left frontal and parietal regions, and increase in gray matter seems to be linked to the increased language competence. For example, greater gray matter volume in bilingual compared to monolinguals, in simultaneous bilinguals compared to sequential bilinguals, and in proficient bilinguals compared to non-proficient bilinguals. Some scientists have found that more white matter volume in corpus callus, that is some neurons connected between your left brain and your right brain. Corpus callosum for bilingual is much more than monolingual older adults. So therefore, it appears that bilingual enhances structural connectivity between brain areas, and that allow bilingualisms to function or speak quickly than monolingual stutterers sometimes. So it is really interesting and comes to the next part, which is the most important part of my systematic review study. So as a stutterer's executive forces, and my focus is on the differences between bilingual stutterers' executive forces and that of monolingual stutterers. So yeah, we first have to know what is executive forces. Executive functions are considered to be a primary subcomponent of metacognition and refer to the management and control of complex cognitive processes, including inhibitory control, cognitive shifting, and the updating of information. Inhibitory control refers to the ability to deliberately block interfering responses. In contrast, cognitive shifting, also referred to as attention or task switching, describes the ability to shift between several tasks and attending to relevant information, and also ignoring irrelevant information. And the third component, updating information, refers to the constant monitoring and rapid addition of deletion of information in working memory. So executive functions are thought to be mainly but not exclusively regulated by prefrontal cortex. Oh, the third one is updating. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is the end of my presentation. But actually, I wanted to present my purpose of doing this systematic review because I think that people who stutter are often judged to have an intellectual disability, but studies suggest that stuttering is caused by congenital genetic deletion or abnormal brain structure, and intellect is not affected by stuttering. When people treat stutterers with an impatient, contemptuous, and provocative attitude, they tend to ignore the stutterer's intellects and cognition that are intact, which have led to mental health hindrance and debilitate self-esteem for people with stuttering. So people's attitude towards stutterers can greatly affect stutterers' emotions and stuttering behavior. Patience is supposed to greatly mitigate the debilitating effect on mental destruction. The expected result of this study is to provide a comprehensive and systematic reference analysis contributing to an object understanding of stuttering. And this article aims to provide a resolution or at least a mitigation for stutterers by emphasizing on the atypical functioning of brains of stutterers and their cognitive process like inhibitory control, cognitive shifting, and updating of information. Thus, the study provides a summary for interventions or outcomes that already exist and aggregate all valid data to form the basis of future research regarding the similar area. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope this will be a objective and refreshing article that helps you to better understand stuttering. Many people give a minute to hear what the stutterers say while enhancing the overall well-being of people who struggle to be fluent in the most basic communications of life. Thank you.